I started my residency in general pediatrics in 2015 in the South Bronx at Bronx Care Health. I graduated in 2018, where I started pediatric emergency medicine. It's a subspecialization of general pediatrics. I did that in Kings County in Brooklyn. I graduated in 2021, where I started my current job at Coney Island. It's also known as South Brooklyn Health, where I'm currently the division director of the pediatric emergency department. Well, I've been a doctor for about 10 years, and I would say roughly we get about 2 to 3 drowning victims per year. This last summer, we had about 6. The ages of those victims were 3 months to 18 years, and they involved everything from falling into a bucket, bathtub, beaches, and pools. This is a very common thing, not just because I'm in Coney Island and near a beach, but all throughout New York City. Every hospital gets about 2 to 3 drowning victims per year. Well, so drowning is one of the main causes of death between children 1 to 4 years of age. So it is a huge issue, especially in New York. I think the solution is twofold. So one, be prepared with the environment that you have, and then be prepared with the abilities that your child has when the environment fails. So for instance, the environment. You can fence your pool. You can put an alarm around your pool. You can remove all buckets with waters in that's filled with water. When you go to the beach, be sure to be where the lifeguard is. You could do everything absolutely right. You can be eye distance with them. You can be arm distance with your child. You can feel like, oh, I have eyes on my child every single second of every single time that we're near the pool. But the fact is, that's not when the drownings are happening. It's happening when your environment fails you, when you turn your head for that split second. So the best solution is to have your child prepared that when the environment fails and they go into this situation, they can get on their back, they can float, and they're able to hold themselves steady for the next couple of minutes until someone finds them. Well, when I was a child, very young, I actually fell in the deep end of the pool on vacation twice. And luckily, somebody was able to pull me out both times without any issues. So between what I went through personally and what I see in the emergency department every year, I said to myself, as soon as I got pregnant, I said, this child is going to be prepared as soon as he possibly can. So I went through the traditional route where I looked up all these places that do the 30 minutes once a week of every week. And they said the youngest they will take him is 4 months. So at 4 months, I called and they said, well, from 4 to 6 months, what we do is we splash around the pool to make sure he gets used to it. And I said, well, my child splashes around in the bathtub. He loves the water. He's used to it. So this is kind of useless for me. At 6 months, I called back and they said, okay, we're going to teach him to blow bubbles in the water and to kick his feet. I said, well, my child can't walk. I'm not really sure how he's going to kick his feet. So again, this seemed a little bit questionable to me. So at around 1 year, a little bit before 1 year, I finally enrolled him for like a formal traditional swim. We went into the class. He splashed around. He found a toy, so he didn't want to do anything else. And then they said, we'll see you next week. So I said, even if he did learn something in these 30 minutes, next week, there's no way he's going to remember anything. So then I sat down and I said, okay, this is enough. I have to do the proper research for this. And that's when I found out about survival swim. I have to say, all the research that I did actually was perfectly coinciding with reality. So there were 2 major myths that everyone spoke about when you go into these like forums of survival swim. The first one is, oh, on the first day, they take their child and they chuck them into the pool and they'll figure it out. And that's how they do survival swim. That's a complete myth and a complete lie. So if you do the research, that shows that it's not proven to happen. And if you actually do the program, Miss Rebecca put him in very gently, figured it out, all the techniques on how to get him to float. And then when appropriate, she used all the different methods on how he would fall into the pool. And so we mimicked different ways of actually falling into the pool for him to be able to get back onto his back and to be able to float. We did that with the wetsuit. We did that with full clothes, a full snowsuit, full diaper. So any type of weight on him, shoes, anything, he would be able to flip over and float. Because the reality of it is they're not wearing a bathing suit when they drown or when they go into the water. The second myth was, oh, your child is going to be terrified of the water and he's going to be completely traumatized. Again, a complete lie. All the research shows that there's no fear that builds up, especially at this age when you start them younger. But no matter what age, there is no fear that builds up. And the fact of the matter is, there's a difference between crying because you don't want to do it and crying because you're actually traumatized. Yes, my child does cry sometimes when he gets into the pool because he doesn't want to be there at that moment. But as soon as he's out, he's happy and playful. He'll wave goodbye. He's not traumatized. The kid before him doesn't cry. The kid after him doesn't cry. So that is a complete myth. And in fact, he still loves the water. So it's interesting because it's very generational. Older generation, maybe like 10, 15 years older than me, were very much like, oh my gosh, I don't know about that. That's probably not a great route. Then the younger generation, maybe a little bit more our age, actually loves it. So there's so much research in it now that many of the up and coming physicians are suggesting that their families do this instead of the traditional type of swim. But I have to say that older generation, when I've shown them videos of my child doing it, they're amazed. So we're really changing that dynamic as well. Well, in terms of our family, my husband and I decided we could not tell them because they would be like, are you insane? Their precious first grandson could not go through any of this. My mom even actually said to me, why are you enrolling him in swim so early? Why don't you just wait till he's 3 or 4 or 5 where, he'll be a little bit more adjusted then? I said, that's completely the opposite of what I want to do. And that's not the point. I want to get him to the point where if I can't hear him, if I can't see him, if he goes into the water, he's surviving. So we decided the day that he can float and I can send a video, that's when we'll tell them. It turned out it was day 2 because Miss Rebecca is amazing. So on day 2, we sent them the video. They were like, what? Oh my God. We're now week 4. My mom is praying and hoping that someone can teach her how to swim this well too. In terms of friends, ever since I've been posting videos on Instagram, I've been getting message after message after message saying they wish they did this with their kids earlier and when can I sign up? Let's be clear. Drowning is not real. There is no such thing. Drowning means you have to submerge yourself underwater. So dry drowning was a thought that, oh, if a kid was playing in the pool and inhaled some water, swallowed some water, a week later, they would have all these respiratory complications. That is not true and it's completely false. We've actually taken the term dry drowning out of our vocabulary as physicians. Drowning means you have to be submerged underwater. And drowning means that when you are underwater, you're underwater for a certain amount of time where you have respiratory impairment. So there's no such thing as drowning and then having symptoms days later. It's a complete myth and not true. So there may be instances where you're worried that your child is swallowing pool water or whatever water that they're in. It's a possibility, of course. We all do it. Even when we're in the pool as adults, we can swallow some of the water. The whole point of survival swim is that you're teaching them breath techniques. You're teaching them techniques in order to say that when my face hits the water, I am holding my breath and I'm not opening my mouth. I'm not breathing in and I'm not trying to swallow this water. And even if they do swallow the water, it's the same thing as drinking water, drinking milk. It goes through your digestive tract, it gets digested, and it comes out the other end, just like anything else you ingest. I think it's absolutely ridiculous that drowning is still one of the leading causes of death for our children. We have to do better with this. I think something like survival swim should be part of basic life training. We work so hard to treat our children as, our perfect little specimens that we created. We put sunblock on them diligently every 2 hours to make sure the sun doesn't damage them. We give them vitamins to grow. We develop them socially and mentally, and we put them in school at such a young age. So why are we not better preparing them for situations like the water? And we're in New York. The water's there. It's going to happen, whether it's a pool, whether it's a beach, whether it's just a bucket in your garage. So why are we not doing this to better our children? So the why for me is I see all my children, I see all of these victims that went through this. Why did they have to go through this? They did not. We need to prevent this, and it's so preventable. So if you're going to do the best for your child, why not start here? This is the best thing you could do for that.